The Expired Podcast by Macy Bookout and Natalie Gard. This week's episode is on Evelyn Boswell.
Welcome to the Expired Podcast and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yay. We're excited to start the new year off right, and we are going to cover the case of Evelyn Boswell today. And Natalie is probably going to lead this a little more because she has dove deep in this one. So
Did I get the title of Queen Sleuther for this one?
yeah, you're the Queen
You're the
Sleuther for this
Queen
one.
Sleuther.
I passed the torch for
Thank
this
you.
case.
Okay, so Evelyn Boswell, she is a teen mom,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a young daughter named Evelyn Boswell. And Megan is being called the Casey Anthony of Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
which really got my attention.
No one wants to be called that.
No. Even with watching the new Casey Anthony documentary, I flopped a little bit.
See, I've heard that. I have
You
to
need
go
to watch it.
I've heard that, and I'm very interested to see how it might change my mind, because I'm still, like, until I watch it might change my mind, but I'm still just dead set on what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone is saying that the new documentary is like kind of a game changer.
It's a game changer for sure. Maybe it's just because like it's playing on victims of sexual abuse that gets me.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to believe the person who is claiming to be a victim.
Right.
So maybe that's it, but it was really good. And I see some mommy issues with Evelyn Boswell, but I don't see sexual abuse issues.
I see maybe toxic family relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and what I've recently learned to be like intergenerational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely mommy issues.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly some like drug use or drug abuse within those relationships.
Yeah.
Even going through the case and like taking the notes and stuff, I'm still not quite sold on the comparison to Casey Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
But as I learn more and dig in a little more, I can definitely see where I might become more like have that comparison make a little more sense to me. But
I think it's mostly because she put herself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like she put herself out in the media, and we all know media can
twist and turn things for sure. But a lot of what I saw as far as the interviews and things, I see a teenager, an immature, selfish kind of. I don't want to call her stupid, but as kids, as teenagers, like even myself being a teen mom, I was still a kid. I was still a teenager. I was still dumb sometimes, like you still have a lot of learning left to do.
Yeah.
I mean, at any age, but especially as a teenager. So I'm not getting monster from her.
I even wrote in my notes, how would you feel in this situation? Because I wanted to ask you, like, if your 15-month-old went missing, how would you respond?
Well, as a teenager,
like
I'm not sure I would have even been able to hold myself together. I feel like it would be such like almost shock syndrome, like where you're almost out of body. That's how I would think I would feel, but also extremely like scared and sad and helpless. And helpless is a terrible feeling.
So do you think her reaction, like doing all these different news things, is that normal? Does it seem normal to you?
Not necessarily. But again, I try to also compare, like when I started filming, I was a teenager and a mom too, but I still feel like how I was brought up and raised, some of the times, like, the people that are interviewing her actually are irritating to me because they keep asking the same question, even after she said, like, I don't know, or I'm not sure how to feel, or like, I just really want her home. And they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. She's so young and lacks any sort of real world um, experience. And I also don't. I've always had to remind myself, even being on my show, not everyone was raised by my parents. Not everyone had the family that I have.
You're right.
So I think that speaks a lot to different circumstances and personalities and behaviors. So she doesn't have the whereabouts to be able to say, okay, I'm done answering your questions right now. You know, like, when they push and keep pushing, she wants to answer, and when they push and push, she just says whatever it is, I feel like, to get them to stop asking that question or to move on, instead of knowing that in that moment she has every right to say, I've answered all the questions I can answer right now, and I'm done for today.
Yeah.
Thank you. And moves on. She doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of teenagers in general, but in this particular situation, wouldn't know. And there's no parent or adult around her to say,
yeah,
like, to be standing right there with her and say, okay, we're done here. You know, there's no one there protecting her. No one, or speaking for her better than she knows how to speak for herself.
Right. And it seems like she has like mom issues, because she left Evelyn with her mom the last time she was seen. She was seen wearing a pink bow and a pink tracksuit and her
cute little shoes.
Yeah. Her dad was the first to report her missing. So Tommy Boswell, which is Megan's dad, Evelyn's grandfather, was the first to say she's missing. I haven't seen her since December 26th. But then they go back and they say, no, it wasn't December 26th. It was more like December 10th or 11th when she was last physically seen.
Yeah, I think the Christmas holiday, and obviously at Christmas, usually
grandparents,
family
everyone
sees each other, things are planned. Even in not so good family situations, things happen at Christmas. Family gets together. And I think that is what really sparked it for the grandfather. Was like, we went all the way through Christmas and I still haven't seen her. Where is she? Which to me makes sense.
Yeah.
Because my parents live literally a couple miles down the road from us. And it's easy. Granted, my kids are much older and have a lot of stuff going on, but it's easy for them to go 2 weeks without seeing my kids. Now, I will say they don't go weeks without seeing my kids, and they're seeing me. You know, typically if they're not seeing my kids, they haven't seen me either.
Right.
But it wouldn't be crazy, for how crazy December can be with the holidays, to go a couple weeks, then the holidays happen and you're still not seeing this child. That is most definitely, I can understand that he hadn't seen her for a couple weeks, but making it through the holidays and not seeing her, it makes 100% sense why then he was like, okay, I've got to report this.
And so on February 19th, she was officially reported, but she hadn't been seen since December, early December-ish. With that Amber Alert, there was a car that was...
It was a gray BMW. 2007 gray BMW.
Yep. With license plates and everything that they had. And it was the car she was supposedly last seen in or been in.
Yep. And that Amber Alert went out on February the 19th. And just in case people have information, I think we should give them the tag number.
Yeah.
So the tag number on that gray BMW, the 2007 gray BMW, the Tennessee tag, and the tag number was 3M96W9. And the Amber Alert went out of Sullivan County, Tennessee.
Which is northeast Tennessee. It's kind of between Johnson City and
like
Kingsport.
Bristol and stuff. Yeah, it's like in that top corner of Tennessee. And bear with us because throughout this, we go to a lot of states. That in that little corner, there's Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, and then just a little bit, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then just a little bit this way, you will get Kentucky, possibly, and a little bit more north, but still West Virginia is not far off right there either. So a lot of states in this one little area.
So about 3 days later, after TBI is on the case, there are about 4 different news interviews, which is a lot to go through. The first interview is by Megan Boswell on February 21st. She's kind of giddy, like laughs at weird like questions. She's a little weird. She's like emotionless sometimes, overly emotional sometimes, but when you're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. I don't read her behavior as
weird,
as bizarre as most people do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's that I know the mindset of being a teen and a parent, or that I know the mindset of being a teen who's also a parent with a camera in your face. But I feel like most people would feel this way, that I have a hard time judging or really taking the behavior during an interview too serious when it comes to something like this, because that's like saying that there's a right way to feel when you lose someone, or there's a right way to feel when you're going through this. Like, I don't, unless you've been through it, I don't think anybody knows how it feels or how you would react.
Right.
And to me, the difference for me is that she does not seem to be trying to act any kind of way. And for me, that's what would give a red flag, is if she was trying to be emotional, or if she was trying to be closed off, or if she was trying to not say too much. Those things, like when you're trying too hard, that to me is weird.
Yeah.
But when your child is missing and there's no person of support or protection around you, and you're a teenager, I can't really judge her off of her behavior. Now, things she says that might be true or false, or claims that she's making that might be true or false, that I can judge her off of. But the behavior, to me, honestly, for me, I felt like she, number one, I never hear her speak in past tense in that first interview. It's all present tense. Number two, she is smiling, not like, I wouldn't say just super joyful and happy, but she is, it's natural when you speak about your children to smile when you're talking about them, especially when she's saying how cute she is and how sweet she is and her favorite things. Like, to me, the present tense talking and the joy that it brings her when she's speaking about her daughter, that is normal. I mean, if I'm talking about my kids, even when I'm talking about them being a butthead, like, I'm still gonna laugh or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like and people are probably gonna slaughter me for this, but I feel differently about her behavior than I think most people do.
But
and I could be a fool.
But you have first-hand experience. Like, you're like probably the one person who might give that reaction.
Right. But I've also never had a child missing.
Right.
And so I'm not sure how
you would react.
Right. So I don't want her to already be guilty because she's a teenager who is a mother and her child is missing and there's cameras in her face and these reporters won't stop asking her questions.
The same question.
When she's already given whatever answer she can possibly give. Like, I understand it's a reporter or journalist job.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that when you're interviewing someone, you are supposed to leave space for them to feel like they have to fill it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like it in a sense that I feel like there just was no one to interject.
Yeah.
And say like, yeah, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't even know what she's dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm. So
And,
she has no idea
and
what
she's
she's
still a
saying.
kid. She doesn't even know herself well enough right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing this.
Yeah.
There was no one that interjected for her.
No support. Because the baby's father is Ethan Perry, and he's in the military, and he's in Louisiana, and has very little to do with his daughter Evelyn. So,
and I'm not sure. I mean, she's only 15 months old, so I don't want to, put him in a box either. I think his lack of involvement in general in the whole thing is because he's stationed in the military somewhere else.
right.
I don't think, or
It
at
was
least I don't know of
intentional,
anything
right.
that says that he just was never involved and didn't care.
Yeah. So on February 21st, we have the interview from Megan. We also have an interview from Megan's boyfriend, who is named Hunter Wood, and he is a little odd. He says that they've been dating since December,
On
which
and
is
off.
right around the time where Evelyn went missing. And the reason they met was Megan interviewed to work at Hunter's chicken place.
Yeah,
Restaurant.
his family, I guess, owns a restaurant, and she
Mm-hmm.
interviewed for a job there, which also to me is telling me she is trying to be a responsible
right.
adult and parent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
All of his interviews were just like, blah, 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 my chicken shop, blah, blah. Like, interjected when we didn't need that.
The thing that really got me, like, I was like, yeah, I don't care for him, but, that's on me, not on him. It's not like he's done anything to me. But the one thing that I was like, really? Now I really don't like you, and I have a reason not to like you, was when he said something along the lines of, I'm not quoting verbatim, but something along the lines of, we need to focus on, like, what's important here, which is basically making the best food at my such and such restaurant. In an interview about, and I for sure thought he was going to say, we need to be focused on
Evelyn.
The most important thing here, which is finding this 15-month-old little girl. And that's not what he said.
Yeah.
He said, we need to be focused on the most important thing here, which is providing good food for our customers at my whatever it's called restaurant. Have you seen that video of the lady that's like, excuse me, bitch?
Yeah.
No, I was like, excuse me? What did you just say? Like, did that come out of your mouth?
Yeah.
And then I realized that everything about him in that interview was really...
He just seems like a rich boy.
Yes, it was a waste of my time. But the only thing of importance that comes from that is the car.
Right. So, this car, this BMW, silver BMW, it was actually Hunter Wood's family car that was stolen by Megan Boswell's mother, Angela, and her boyfriend.
And her mother's boyfriend.
Right. Her mother's boyfriend.
So that's where that to me is more important than even him being Megan's boyfriend, was that the car that it's like a family car, I guess.
Right.
We've kind of figured out they're wealthy or
Seems
comfortable. And there were claims that the grandmother made, Megan's mom made, that he had told her, if you ever need a car, you can borrow it.
Right.
And that's why they took the car or said car. But that whole connection to me is more important than him being Megan's boyfriend.
Right.
Because besides that, all he cared about was his chicken business or restaurant business or whatever.
Right. It just seems convenient. Like,
yeah.
Let me just insert myself more.
Yeah.
Also on that same day with Megan's interview, Hunter's interview.
He said he never met saw the baby. Like, he never met her, was never around her, nothing.
Never met the baby, had no relationship with her.
That's also why I found it interesting that they would interview him, because they had only been dating for, like, at this point, like 2 months. Only known each other for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, why?
Why even talk to him?
Yeah. Or, like,
maybe it was because Megan claimed that the baby fell off the bed and broke her arm at one point and was with the baby's father, Ethan Perry, and he wasn't involved very much, but maybe that was to, like, she's out of the picture because she's with her dad.
Yeah, maybe it was to
bond more,
or to avoid having to bring up what,
like, where is
we think that she knew, but she didn't want to say.
Yeah.
Which that gives me Casey Anthony vibes.
Right.
But
so on all, like, the whole day, we had Megan interview, we had Megan's boyfriend Hunter interview, we had Angela and the boyfriend with the BMW, but we also had Megan's dad interview, and his name is Tommy Boswell. He claims all in the same day that he was in contact with Angela, who's the last person to be quote unquote seen with Evelyn,
which is Megan's mom,
right? And she threatened him, "You're going to regret this. You're going to regret this."
Because he basically reached out to her and said, "I'm going to call the police." Yeah. I guess he was under the impression, or knew, that she was the last person with her, or that Evelyn was in fact with her. Said he was going to call and report it, and that was her response.
Yeah, very threatening, and
multiple times.
Yeah, even Megan says, like, her mom is very threatening,
abrasive, I would say.
So after all these interviews go down on their local news station, a few days later, Megan comes back on and says, "We need to go to Mendota, Virginia, and look for a silver camper."
Yes.
Which is odd.
It is odd. And, well, basically says they're at a campground, or she's been taken to a campground in Virginia, and it's a silver camper. And then goes on to say, "And I will go get her myself if the police or the detectives don't do their job," basically. And I know I'm going to get slaughtered again for this, but to me, I read that as the investigators and the police and the detectives realize and understand that Megan Boswell is a teenager who is, like all teenagers, 98% of teenagers are ignorant and just lack any sort of, like, experience or knowledge about just life, and they're selfish. All teenagers are selfish. Even good teen parents are still selfish teenagers. You're a kid. So I think they might have realized that and kind of started treating her as such. And I think she was irritated by that, and still being a teenager, doesn't know how to say, "Hey, I get that y'all have a job to do, but I'm still this child's mother. I need to be in the loop on things." But she wouldn't have known how to do that. So I think they were just like, we're not really getting much from her, and if we do, it's not really helping. So we just need to make sure we keep our task at hand important. And I think that rubbed her the wrong way. And this is all me speculating, but that's how I read that.
That's how you might feel.
Right. And that statement that she made of, like, if they don't, like, I'll go do it myself if they're not going to do their job.
Right.
That's a very teenager thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what all goes into their job, and there's not enough resources to literally follow every lead the moment that it happens. Time. They have to make sure it's legitimate. They have to make sure that it's worth the resources and being taken away from maybe other leads. She's too young to understand that. But I also don't think she was being forthcoming with all that she knew. And I think if she had let them know all that she knew, they would have taken that things a little more serious that she was saying.
Yeah. Like because my theory is mom had something to do with it. Mom and boyfriend.
I agree.
Something happened, and mom, with having that hold, like mommy issues on Megan, she told her and immediately forgave her from whatever because she has these,
It's easier to not fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a part that, like, whatever I feel doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's not worth bringing up to make my mom more mad
Mm-hmm.
or more irritated. I don't want to have to deal with her.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I'm feeling, I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to deal with her. And quite frankly, I think she was afraid of her mom.
Probably. It seemed like it because there was just too much going on with mom.
I think and a lot of threats.
A lot of threats
to a
from
lot
mom.
of people.
And even I think she's like becoming a little bit of her mom because she threatened police saying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pregnant, I can't take a polygraph before
Yeah.
they even ask for one.
And there were a lot of things she like said before, like no one brought up certain things, and she would almost
Bring it
like
up.
trying to defend herself when no one was
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Accuse
her of anything.
Right.
And
Maybe that was a trait she learned
it's
from mom.
sketchy, but I also think with the conversations and how her mom communicates, I feel like that's something her mom could have been telling her, like, well, blah blah blah, and if you do this you're going to regret it, and they're going to tell you you've got to do this, and they're going to put all this on you,
Mm-hmm.
and this and that and this and that and this and that. And so she thought, okay, I have to defend because they're going to do this, because my mom's been threatening me and telling me this is what they're going to do. So it's a lot of toxic behavior, and that trauma, that the trauma response, that to me it screams trauma response, trauma response, trauma response, constantly.
Well, after she did the whole polygraph, I can't do it because I'm pregnant thing,
Which is bizarre.
which is weird, but I feel like that could probably be a suggestion from mom, like, say you're pregnant, blah, blah, blah. She was set at a $25,000 bond on February 26th, so this is 5 days after all those interviews. And a tip came in. The tip was, you need to search a North Carolina pond that is Megan's mother's boyfriend's grandmother. So Megan's mom, Angela's boyfriend's grandmother, and it's in Wilkes County, North Carolina. And they get this tip to go search this place because Grandma says that when they were going to flee, that her grandson's shoes were wet when he asked for money. Like, I need money. I need to get out of town.
Yep. And she also said she thought he was capable of something like that.
With his past, he was capable of something. So it makes even more clear.
Yeah, it's raising flags everywhere. And, well, one, the fact that a family member is willing to say, not only did he come to me and say this or ask for this, but his shoes were wet.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're questioning me about this, let me tell you that, look into his past. I'm not shocked that you're even coming to me to ask me if we've seen him or this tip that came in. Like, nothing is surprising.
Yeah.
Which screams
guilty or something to do with it. Whatever it may
or be. You're not wasting your time by looking into this person.
Right.
So sketchy.
So with that search, they came up with nothing. Then on March 6th, they got another tip to go search Tommy Boswell's property, which they didn't find anything on this particular property, but then they were given another tip. He has multiple properties.
Yeah. I think his family owns probably land and things in the same area, but not necessarily like the first search on the property. It was a separate property, but I think that family has a few
properties,
which isn't rare in these parts.
No, it's not. You own a lot of property. It's a normal
thing, yeah. And normally it's all family owned.
Right. So that was on March 6th. On March 9th, the judge raises the bond from $25,000 to $500,000, which means some guilt is shadowing this.
Did we say what she was arrested for? Did we tell them?
She was arrested on 11 counts of false reporting.
Yes. 11 counts. And I raised this question, and I feel like it's a question for you too. And maybe it's obvious we're just ignorant on this, and we need to understand what false reporting, what are the stipulations for it to be false reporting. Does that mean that Megan said, say her mom was texting her and threatening her and saying this, or somebody called and said, hey, I saw your mom and her boyfriend here. And so Megan called the detectives and were like, somebody just called me and told me that they saw them here. And then they went there and nothing came of it.
Right.
Would that be false reporting? Or does it mean that she made something up completely or claimed that someone told her something? Like, what makes it false reporting that is like a chargeable offense? Because if my kid's missing, I'm telling them anything and everything I hear.
Right.
Or anything and everything that's been brought to my attention.
So I just Googled. It's unlawful for any person or inmate to report or statement to law enforcement officers concerning an offense or incident within the officer's concern, knowing that A, the offense or incident reported did not occur, or B, the person has no information relating to the offense or incident.
Okay, so basically a theory that...
Right.
I would imagine that they would only charge someone with that if it was with ill intent. You know?
Maybe she knew.
Or like maybe almost like, oh, my mom, they're getting closer to my mom and her boyfriend, and she told me that she's going to kill me if this happens, so I'm going to say this instead.
Right, deflect.
Like with ill intent, that's what I mean. Because if someone tells me something and my kid's missing, I'm going to tell the detectives. But that it's not because I'm doing anything but sharing everything that I know or hear with them, because it's the same thing as a tip coming in. Just like they had many tips come in. But
that could be it.
They didn't find anything, so I don't know. It's just like, could it have been theories that she was thinking, and because she didn't have any information
or maturity that she just
was
put them
just
all
putting
out there?
stuff out there? Or was it that she just continued to do this and kind of give fuel to that fire when there was no reason for them to truly give fuel to the fire of that, because there was no substance to it?
Yeah.
It's just interesting. But I also would say that's okay for 11 or 3 times, 3 times.
11's a lot.
But 11 is absurd. That's extra to me. So, okay.
It could be a little bit of her. It could be a little bit of mom putting those extra counts on. Or it could all be mom.
Yeah. I mean, it could. It could be all Megan. It could be all grandmother. It could be a little bit of both. But I would imagine that in this situation, they would give Megan a few passes on things like that, like her just thinking something or thinking, we need to do this, we need to do this, but there's no reason for her to, like, there's no proof or anything. Like, yeah, you get a pass because that's what you do when your child's missing, is you're trying to think of things. But 11?
Yeah.
11's a lot.
That is a lot.
So that makes more sense now.
So on this, the bond was raised by the judge on March 9th, and a couple days later, on March 11th, Evelyn's remains were confirmed. She was found on property owned by Tommy Boswell in a shed, in a trash can, in a playhouse. So this 15-month-old is wrapped in aluminum foil and thick blankets, very much like Casey Anthony, which
yeah, it's gross. It's bad.
She's put in a trash can face first.
So upside down.
Upside down, where when she's found, her head is so contorted that the back of her head reaches her
the top of her back. So like the
she's
neck was
face
so pushed.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know.
And this is a baby.
I know. I don't know how this happens.
Me either.
I don't know how this happens.
I think if all of that isn't disturbing enough, well, I guess I'm jumping ahead because this was, I was going to go with cause of death. And
well, I mean, I think people want to know it. Like as soon as they hear, okay, this baby is put into aluminum foil in a thick blanket, and the clothes she was last seen in, pink bow, pink tracksuit,
cute shoes.
She's all bound up. Her head is touching her spinal cord pretty much. She's just cause of death. I think people, that's the
cause of
thing.
death was asphyxiation.
Which is then put into a homicide case.
Right. And I think the most disturbing part, if it's not all disturbing already, is that they were able to prove that she was alive when she was put in the trash can.
Which I don't get.
She was still alive.
If this was an accident, grandmother got drunk, high on drugs, went crazy, like, do you think maybe Angela thought she's dead, so I should conceal her? I just don't know how anyone could. I'm going to put a live baby in a trash can with aluminum foil around her face.
What is the aluminum? Like what?
I don't know if that was to kind of preserve her.
To like it, almost like a caring thing, like maybe. Trying to be
with the blanket
respectful, like,
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but aluminum, that's just, is that all that was there? Like,
aluminum foil on a blanket.
If you're like thinking about these things, like, why are we not calling if it's an accident or if something bad happens? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why are we putting this baby, wrapping her in all these things, who might be unconscious but is not dead?
Maybe they didn't know.
I don't know how this happens. Like,
yeah.
Why are we not calling for help? Why are we not taking her for help? Like,
it could be the Casey Anthony thing where they like freak out. The parent and then the grandparents are like, we're all, because the parent is young, we're all going to be charged with this, or whatever, so they try and hide it, which is crazy to me. If anyone is ever hurt or near death, I'm 911. Yes, like, that's a normal person, but these people might not be normal.
Well, I guess if we're comparing the cases, this is where I'm still separating Casey Anthony from this, because from what we know about the Boswells, there is a lot of toxicity there, but there's also some drug abuse, possibly alcohol abuse. We'll just call it substance abuse of any sort and kind. And also some previous past behavior that is criminal. Whereas with Casey Anthony and her family, from everything we know, they're, besides the claims of sexual abuse,
right,
we don't know about substance abuse, right, or consistent toxic domestic
relationships.
Yes,
and
like
abuse.
they seem to be until the
Square.
sexual abuse claims or allegations. Besides that, they seem to be
a good family.
A good family that has some pretty serious family issues, but
who doesn't?
Right. It's not there's not a
Cycle
criminal
of abuse.
substance abuse situation going on, and they still someone in that family knew that either an accident happened or committed the crime, tried to cover it up, let the child be missing for a long time, all these things. Then on this side, you've got someone who could have been highly under the influence of some substance, which in my mind does trigger panic mode. Like,
yeah,
oh my gosh,
what have I done?
And they're still under the influence of whatever it is.
Right.
So they didn't make clear decisions to begin with, so they're not going to start then.
Right.
That's also where I differentiate between the two. Not that either is better than the other, because this is terrible and disgusting on both sides, but
and what I think makes your case is that soon after the body was revealed as Evelyn's, and the cause of death was revealed as asphyxiation, there was no blunt force trauma.
Well, they said they couldn't determine because of the state of the remains.
Right.
But I'm not so sure I believe that, because they can determine blunt force trauma to a skeleton.
And this was only like 2 months that she was decaying. How is that?
Right. They can determine blunt force trauma on remains that it's been years.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if they're just using that language because they think that's a possibility still. But the way that they said it was because of the state of the remains, they were unable to determine, or like they didn't find blunt force trauma. But that's not, in my opinion, that's not the right language.
It's not what
it's like they still want people to think that blunt force trauma occurred, but they're claiming that they couldn't find it or didn't find it because of the state of the remains, when there have been plenty of cases and plenty of remains found where they've determined that it was blunt force trauma before they even could identify who the remains belonged to. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Seems like they're painting like a bad picture and
on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, and that could just be the media. But because when we watched the video of the doctor that performed the autopsy, she didn't say that. That was a statement that was put out either by the prosecutor's office or the police department. It wasn't from that doctor's office or out of the doctor's mouth. That was a claim that was made elsewhere.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. It's so crazy how the media can
do whatever they want,
portray you, and you can be
the
shittiest person on
the whole.
You probably know all about this.
Oh, Mace. I do. Everyone thinks they know everything about
everyone hates everything. Macy.
Even when it's like on the show, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's exactly what happened, and that's how it went," and it's like, it's a television show. Yeah. There are things called producers and line editors. It's a thing. So I want to know exactly what. Well, I butchered the spelling of asphyxiation.
It's the Chattanooga Choo-choo.
Yeah, again, the train. Here we are. At least we weren't here recording last week when.
Dear God, I would have been right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
I know. I could have died.
Y'all.
You could have died.
Like, really, timing is crazy.
I know.
Because we were supposed to be on our way to record
100 at that very time. And I texted you later and I was like, thank God we didn't record today.
Yes. I don't know what it was, but it's just one of those, like, it wasn't supposed to align that way.
Timing works sometimes.
Oh, man.
Even if you don't think it does.
Okay. The definition of asphyxiation is the state or process of being deprived of oxygen, which can result in unconsciousness or death, aka suffocation. So that's another thing. If it was asphyxiation due to an accident, that makes me automatically think that most people would think I need someone to tell me this child is dead, because until that, we're not doing anything but getting help. Like, I'm not just assuming. I'm not just assuming. And if it's an accident, yes, I can understand where it'd be like, oh my God, my life is over. This is terrible. And it was an accident. I didn't do anything, but I'm still going to call for help and deal with whatever comes with that. But I'm not just going to assume anything and also hide this and flee and run. Like, I say
but
that,
under
but
drugs
I've never
and mental health, like, we don't know this.
But I mean,
state
I've
of
also
mind.
never had an accident or been involved in anything that has put me in this position to say that I would act or react a certain way. But
my theory is that the mom and the boyfriend were watching Evelyn because Megan was going to work. They either went to bed and suffocated her by accident and came up with this whole scheme.
Which can happen.
Totally. We've seen it happen before. Or something intentional happened and they thought, okay, we have a dead baby. Who do we hate the most? Angela thinks, my ex-husband, Tommy. Let's go stash her on
his property.
Yeah. And get out of town.
Yeah.
But nothing leads me to Megan.
There's nothing.
We've sleuth through her Facebook profile. She seemed very like
normal.
In tune. Yes, very normal teen mom. Very in tune with other kids that are missing in our area.
Yes,
like
just humanity in general.
Just a
good person.
Good person, but maybe dumb as a teenager, which we're all fucking dumb.
Yes, like there's no one can tell me that I thought I knew everything.
Yeah. Don't we all?
What a funny joke. But like, no, she seems like a legitimate, kind-hearted person. Even as a teenager, she doesn't strike me as super selfish or super self-involved. She posted a lot of normal posts during her pregnancy, and then also normal teenage mom posts during a pregnancy that are very sweet. And the normal, you can say, like, I feel like she was also very open of like, I am a teenager and I am pregnant, or even after I am a mom.
Mistakes.
I don't do it right all the time, but I love my child. I'm going to do whatever I can for my child.
I want to raise her right.
Yes, like there are zero red flags on any social media prior to, or maybe even after this happened, but like I didn't see a thing that tells me that she is this evil self-involved monster.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing, and they're still, in my opinion, besides her, maybe her story isn't straight, or maybe it's kind of back and forth, or we'll just say it's inconsistent. I still have seen or heard or found zero evidence that leads me to believe that she has done this or committed this crime. Does that mean that she didn't know that it happened, or knew who did it, or didn't know that it happened and acted otherwise? No, I'm saying I do not believe right now, there is nothing. If I was on a jury, there is nothing they could tell me that would make me convict her.
Right.
Nothing. Because there is nothing.
There is nothing.
Everything else is hearsay and maybe some issues with behavior and personality and her false reporting.
Right.
But that does not mean she committed the crime of murder.
Right. So in my sleuthing,
Queen Sleuther.
You are. All right. So I found out that when Megan was arrested, her mom was already in jail for a couple of weeks because she was arrested for theft at her mom's house. So Angela was arrested a few weeks after all this mess because she broke into her mom's house, and her mom called the law and was like, yeah. So what I found out is Angela and Megan, they're in the same prison in Tennessee.
That's not good.
Not good at all. On May 20th, which is right around the time we're talking about this, it went to 150.
I just drank the rest of that, and I'm pretty sure they got me on the mic. Sorry. Really sorry.
19 counts, but then dropped to 11. And with looking at this for like the past couple of weeks, I texted you and I was like, look, February is going to be busy because February is when Megan Boswell, and then we found out February
2020.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Oh, that just means the expired podcast is going to last a few years.
Thank God. But 2020, like,
how does that happen?
And I have no idea.
Well, we talked about this. So if you know the law at all, I feel like this is a like, even if you don't follow and like sleuth like we do, I feel like it's well known that you have a right to a speedy trial, which means that someone who is prosecuting you, the court that's prosecuting you, cannot go and say, all right, you've been put in jail or prison, the bond you got or didn't get, no matter what, they cannot prolong the trial process to keep you in a facility or even keep you on specific charges simply because they don't have enough evidence. They can't do that. You have a right to a speedy trial. So if your defense is ready and the prosecution is not,
too bad.
Sorry about it.
But it makes me think Megan has more.
Well, it makes me think that her defense team has a lot of stuff to go through to prove her innocence. But because the prosecution also has a right to a speedy trial, which means, yes, the defense can ask for, say, an extension or like, let's postpone it to another date because we have so much stuff we have to go through. At the same time, only time that makes sense can be warranted, if at all. They don't have to give it to them, but most of the time they do, so that you get a fair shot at your defense. But the prosecution team can also motion for a speedy trial because they're not just not going to go to court because you don't have a defense because you're so guilty. The prosecution has not at all appealed that motion.
Right.
Which tells me they don't have enough evidence to convict her of this.
So maybe they're okay with like, okay, gather as much as you want, defense.
Yeah.
We're going to do the same.
We're secretly like, yeah, we're not going to go out and say we don't have any evidence, but I have not heard of any evidence.
I haven't either.
At all.
And that was the last thing I heard. I was like so excited because we were going to
do it in February.
February and then it was pushed back 3 years.
And
so
now we have years. And that screams that the prosecution does not have evidence to present to a jury and have her be convicted. Yeah. It screams that to me. Because what prosecution, like what
waits
office
that long
wants to say, yeah, sure, we'll wait 3 years?
No, they don't.
When
they
it's
want to get it done.
15-month-old child that this happened to and was, I don't know. To me, it's just like no one's proven to me that
reasonable doubt. Yeah, no one's proven that Megan was the last to see her. We've all heard that it was the mom that was the last to see her, and then with the trial being pushed back like literally 2 almost 3-ish years.
question.
What like so many questions.
Well, one thing I don't think that I saw or heard anywhere, have they given when they did the autopsy and stuff, did they give a time of death?
Mm-mm. So it could be anywhere
So just
between.
because no one saw her, or like Megan, her father,
Right.
like Evelyn's grandfather, everyone was saying they hadn't seen her.
Mm-hmm. No time of no.
There's nothing saying that besides the last time she was seen was this time. There's not a time of death to prove that.
Not that I've heard of. The Amber Alert was on February 15th, but then later they found out that she wasn't seen since possibly as early as December 10th. So anywhere between December 10th and February 15th.
We don't even know when the crime could have been committed and who she might have been with or not been with.
I have a theory.
What is it?
I think the theory is Megan was trying to work.
Mm-hmm.
She went to work, dropped her baby off with her mom and her drug addicted younger boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened where she was like, let me just keep Evelyn for a couple days, like to try and allegedly maybe cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
And Angela just tried to prolong this, like, let me just keep her. We're going to go to Virginia. We're going to go to.
Right. What's also weird too is like at this time, like when COVID is going on,
this was just before. Was it just 2020? So, yeah, this would have been heavy COVID.
So they could have been like,
hey,
we tested positive, so we'll keep her. Or like, I have it and she's been here. Mm-hmm. So we need to isolate together, right, and we'll let you know like when the quarantine period's up.
Yeah. And then by the time Christmas came around, the rest of her family was like, nope, I'm not listening to Angela anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna.
Also, have the grandmother and her boyfriend been arrested also on charges of murder?
I'm not sure if it was murder or homicide or anything.
Or like accomplice.
The mom, remember, she was arrested for breaking into her mom's house.
Yeah.
Angela was arrested for.
But they haven't been charged.
And they're in the same jail, but I don't think they're charged with the same crimes as Megan.
I want to know what is the information on charging Megan, but not her charging mom. Because they have, on top of the false reports, they have now charged Megan like she is in prison on a gnarly bond for murder.
Yeah. But
what do they have on Megan that they don't have? Because I feel like they have more on her mom as being the one responsible than they do for Megan.
Totally. Last person seen.
Yeah. The fleeing
thing, the stealing the car,
the opinions and thoughts of the boyfriend's grandmother. Like, I don't know. It's just not making sense to me, man. It's not making sense to me. I don't know.
And maybe that's why
maybe
they
because
need
it's so popular.
Extra time.
Yeah, maybe because it's so popular and it was so like, I mean, it was nationwide coverage. Maybe they aren't putting a lot of information out there because they don't want the rumor mill to get spun too far.
Right.
But I don't know.
I'm looking up the latest. This is as of September 30th,
I wonder if we can get an interview with her.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. I would love to speak to her.
I know. Especially since
I have so many questions.
She seems so like.
This has been pretty much a whole 2 years. So, and I feel like you could ask anybody from the time you're 17, 18 to the time you're 19, 20. You grow a lot.
Yeah.
And you're still a young, kind of silly adult. But like there's a lot of growth in those 2 years.
This is Evelyn and her mom in the same prison.
Wow.
God, they look so much
They
alike.
do.
This is the boyfriend, so much younger, which
Mm-hmm.
seems odd. Like,
yeah. Wonder how long they had been together. He looks like he's closer to Megan's age than Angela's age.
Mm-hmm. Man. But on People magazine, it says Evelyn's grandmother says that Megan loved that baby, quote unquote, love that baby.
That's all I've seen on any, and I don't want to like harp on it too much because I don't want it to come across as artificial, but or like her social media, she was a normal, very loving
teen mom.
Yes. And not in a fake way, not in a showy way. She wasn't trying to impress anybody. She was very real, very realistic about her being a teenager and being a mom, and making understanding mistakes. That she's not going to do everything right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, everyone's going to make mistakes, and she loves her child. Like, it was very real, not for show.
When her mom was pregnant with her,
I wouldn't be shocked if she was a young mom too. Mom? It's usually a generational cycle because my parents were teen parents.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, my parents have been boyfriend girlfriends since they were like 13 or 14.
Really?
Yeah. And what's
that
crazy,
gives you faith in relationships, though.
When they still have like disagreements, they argue like they're 13. Kids. Yes, I'm like, y'all
haven't grown at all.
It's crazy. No,
I could see that with because we live in this area. Like, I could totally see Angela being a young mom, Tommy being a young dad. They don't work out. They divorce because obviously
it usually doesn't work out.
And it just, they go down different paths. And it looks like the dad went down a really good path, normal, buying property and decent providing, living, right? And the mom went down just a different path.
And one could speculate that Angela, Megan's mom, also has these similar relationships that are toxic and behaviors that are not good and experiences that aren't good from how she was raised or with her mom and dad. Like, it's all usually those things carry on until someone says, I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
Like, my kid's not going to deal with all the things that I dealt with, that my mom dealt with, or dad, or whatever. Like, until someone stops it, it keeps going because that's all you know.
That's all you know. So it feels normal.
I know they won't, like, unless someone appeals that motion for the 3 years from now trial.
I don't think it will. I think it'll be 3 years from
now.
I
agree.
I think it's going to take that long.
Unless within their discovery, as far as the prosecution and maybe things that even the defense finds and kind of fills in the prosecution, unless they decide or find that someone else is guilty and it's proven, we'll be talking about this again in 2025.
I would love to talk to Megan's mom's boyfriend, Angela's boyfriend. I don't think he's significant enough, but
did anyone ever?
I don't even know his name. Like, that's what I mean by it.
Find it.
But I would love to hear from his inmate, like his fellow inmates.
Yeah.
To see what he says. Like, is he going to put all the blame on Megan, Angela? Is he going to take claim? Like, is he going to get really emotional and vulnerable with some people? But that's dangerous.
But do they have to? Because they haven't been charged with anything relating to this.
I don't know.
And them being already incarcerated, and I don't know if they still are, but I haven't heard anything about that boyfriend besides the tip to go search the land and his grandmother saying that. Like, there's nothing else about him.
Yeah.
It's all weird. And I'm not saying that I don't think that Megan did anything wrong here, especially with the false reports and stuff. And I definitely think that she has to deal with the consequences of that. But I don't like that she has been charged with 2 counts of felony murder and no one else has, and there is no evidence that tells me that she committed this crime. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'll just put my sleuthing hat on and go
look at all of her stuff.
Yeah,
I need to look up the dad. I feel like maybe
I don't want a while from here. I don't want to find out that he's like Casey Anthony's dad. Because to me, he's the one.
What did you hear about Casey?
Well, you know, just how his behavior and like
just not there.
I don't know. I don't know. Everyone in that family rubs me the wrong way, but like I don't want to find out that there's a lot that this guy's hiding because he seems to be kind of the only normal
dad.
Like the only normal adult or somewhat normal adult in Megan's life. But he doesn't seem to be interjecting for her. As I feel a dad would and should.
But it could be because they're young. I don't know. I have a lot of questions.
Or it could be because he's like, there's no right way to go. Maybe he's just grieving.
Maybe.
Because he lost a granddaughter and a daughter, essentially. So he's dealing with a lot. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm about to go put on my hat. Hopefully find some new information.
That's crazy. Well, we'll keep you up to date because obviously this case is going to go on for quite some time. And because we live in Tennessee, we're going to, be the first to update you on it. Yeah. And we'll just wait for 2025.
That's so far from now.
I know. But maybe we look at it positively and think like they're going to have so much information by then.
We'll have answers.
We're going to have,
the right person will be held accountable, or people will be held accountable. Justice will be served for this sweet baby.
I know.
Oh, man.
I couldn't imagine.
Well, our thoughts and prayers will be with everyone involved because it's just terrible. And hopefully
the truth will come out.
The justice system works. Yeah, hopefully. We'll keep you updated if we find any updates. But Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
We'll keep you up to date. I know everyone is like obsessed with crime. That watches us at least. They're like, more. And we're going to really try for that.
Yeah.
I really hope.
And I
make time for me.
Maybe the next time we'll be in the new office.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope.
We'll be in a new office. Doesn't mean we're going to get off the floor, though, because we both love sitting on the floor.
And it doesn't mean we're going to get rid of our beautiful
plastic
black tarp. This is the expired podcast.
We'll see you next time. Happy New Year.